Violence against Asian Americans still on the rise. A personal defense for our beloved Governor Andrew Cuomo. And guys, are we ready to open up yet? How you doing, fam? Welcome to the Millennial Boomer Podcast. It's your host, Jonathan. Let's get it. Okay, I hope everybody's doing well. We're in interesting times here. There's a lot of stuff going on. Uh, First of all, hope you guys are all doing well. Look, the weather, the weather is getting warmer. Okay, and people are more excited to be outside. We're sick of the snow. I'm talking about New York. I don't know where else y'all listen to, but in New York, it's been terribly cold for the past 2, 3 months, and we're tired of it. So I'm glad the weather's getting warmer. I'm glad there's some enthusiasm of people actually wanting to meet with people, because that's what we need right now. We need more human interaction, guys, and I'm gonna talk a lot about this a little later today. But it's good news, right? So the weather's getting better. People are feeling better. We have a new vaccine coming out by Johnson and Johnson. Apparently, it has aborted, some cell fetus line. I don't know how exactly it's explained. It's like a duplicate of the fetus cells. So be excited about that. We have hospitalization rates going down. Interestingly enough, they're going down day one of Biden being president. So as soon as January 20th hit, I guess the coronavirus hospitalization rates decided to take a dip. Isn't that something? Also, we got the non-fungible tokens that are getting popular. For those of you that are in the crypto world and the digital currency world, there's this thing called, apparently it's a thing, a non-fungible token, where you can monetize this online graphic or art or tweet or meme or GIFs, and people will buy them. Okay, they have some value, and we are buying and selling NFTs now, or non-fungible tokens. We live in crazy times, folks. Look, I don't know what to tell you. Throughout the lockdown, people have, the nice way to put it is we've been creative, and we found ways to talk to each other online and all these things, and we've also created a much more accelerated form of a digital virtual world or reality. And look, I don't know if that's really healthy for us, right? I mean, look, we are a communal people, right? We're designed to be within communities, but this unprecedented situation has forced us to adapt to do things that go against what I think is human nature. But look, I'll talk more about that. We live in crazy times. We live in weird times, man, and especially with all the Asian violence that's going up with the pandemic and all these sorts of things that are coming out. I'm gonna try to cover some of these things today, but look, first I want to share. I'm gonna start off with a story, and I think you may know why I'm sharing this story, but it is something that happened recently. So about 2 weeks ago, I was helping out my boss, and he was going through the process of getting a green card. So for those of you that are familiar, when you are towards the end process of getting your green card, you have to go through an interview. Now he was getting the green card through an invitation with family, and because of Trump, now you have to go do interviews even with family invitation. Before Trump, apparently you didn't have to do any kind of interviews. So I help him through this process. I'm only really there as a backup translator, right? Like a real backup translator. They have translators usually on premise, through the phone. So we go to the city, and we go through the federal building somewhere in downtown, and it's typical federal building layout. You go inside, and there's a really nasty woman who tells you to hurry up and go. Typical New York assholery, right? And we're going through the different check-in points. You got to go through here, then you got to go through there, And you finally get to the last waiting room of where the interview is going to happen between my boss and the interviewer. And they ask, questions like, have you ever done this? Have you ever done that? Simple, basic questions. Are you a criminal? Do you engage in drugs or selling drugs or terrorism? All that bullshit, right? I mean, whatever. Like, the questions are so outrageous, some of them. But I did take a look. And I don't know, like the when I think about the US immigration system and the questions that they ask, it's like, when was the last time that this has been updated? Because these are questions that I felt are maybe relevant back in the 90s, right? You're asking about terrorism, you're asking about, bringing in weapons. And I mean, who on their right mind is gonna go to this interview and say, yes, I brought in weapons. Yes, I smuggled drugs. Yes, I'm part of a crime organization. Like who's gonna do that in an interview, right? It makes no sense. But anyway, that's apparently the things that they ask. So I'm there, and we get to the final waiting room, right? Me, my boss, his father, who is the invitee, and we're there. And as soon as we get to the waiting room, there's a security guard, right? He's sitting right in front of the waiting room, and I'm holding a cup of, I think it was like Dunkin' Donuts, iced coffee, and he tells me, "Hey, you have to throw that out." I'm like, "All right, relax, I'll throw it out. No need to get all fucking, like a little anxious about some fucking coffee." I'm looking for a garbage can, right? I'm looking for a garbage can. And right behind him, there is a garbage can. So I ask him nicely, like, "Sir, can I throw this out, behind you?" And he comes to me and he says, "No, you can't throw it out there." So I'm like, okay. He doesn't want me to enter this waiting room until I throw out this fucking coffee. And there's a garbage can right behind this desk, and it's not even part of his desk. It's like 5 steps behind the desk in like this long hallway, right? So he says no, and I'm holding this coffee, and I look inside the room, the waiting room. It's a large waiting room, and there's a garbage can there. And I say, "Look, can I throw it out there?" And he just looks at me, and he gives me this sign, like, like in other words, just this, it's him telling me just shut up and go in, right? So he's being a dick. Nothing new, right? Many New Yorkers, we're a bunch of dicks. I can be a dick. I get it. All right. He hates his fucking job. He probably hates his life. His wife isn't probably fucking him. I don't know the deal. Whatever the issue is, it is what it is. Okay. So I go in the room. Right. He tells me just go in, or gives me the hand motion, and I'm there, and I'm sitting down there. And I see the garbage can. There's a garbage can inside the waiting room that's a little further out there. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to finish this coffee, and I'm just going to throw it out there. Maybe about 2 minutes in, right? 2 minutes later, the guy comes storming inside the waiting room, he starts pointing at me, and he says, "You, get out now. He's like making a huge fucking fuss. Get out now. And I'm like, dude, like, relax. All right, what's the problem? And I get up, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and we're having this sort of stare down moment, right? In the fucking waiting room with this security guy, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and this like staring back and forth. You guys try to imagine, happens for literally about a minute. It was a long minute, and inside that minute, I'm going through all the scenarios, right? I'm going through, okay, like, this guy, if I get into a little scrap with him, what if he pulls out like a fucking taser gun or some weapon on me, Like, okay, there's a good chance he probably has something. He has like this belt on him that has different sorts of tools. I'm sure there's something that he can use to subdue me. So I'm like, okay, in that case, I'll definitely lose the fight. But even if I lose the fight, I'm going to make sure I hurt this motherfucker. I'm going to make sure that even if I go down, that something of his body, or he will receive some sort of damage that will be permanent, and he will remember for the rest of his fucking life that he messed with the wrong person. So all this is going inside my head during the stare down, and it's building up, right? The tension is really building up, and it's like that moment where I'm about to snap, right? Like I don't. Maybe some of you guys know about this moment. It's like this anger that comes out. Like I rarely get angry. Well, I mean, I get angry here and there, but I don't get to the point of the boiling point where, I'm going to do something that gets violent. So it's building up to that point where, with this fucking, douchebag security guard and my boss, he sees what's going on. He pulls me over. He says, it's like, what are you doing? This is, like, what are you doing? Like, this is my fucking green card interview day. Stop this fucking nonsense. Okay. So he pulls me to the side. Told him I'm sorry, with the whole situation. He saw what happened. His father saw what happened. The whole room saw what's going on, right? It was ridiculous. So, someone in the waiting room told the security guard, look, he's just going to throw out the coffee and he's going to sit, all right? Like, we don't have to, this doesn't have to be a thing. So, I do that, right? I throw out the coffee and I sit down and I look at him and he looks at me and he gives a little grunt and he's all pissy for no fucking reason, right? Sits back down. Whatever, right? It is what, just let it go. Not worth the trouble, right? After I cool down a bit, I realized completely not, like if I get into a fight with the security guard, whose side are the people going to take? Me or the security guard? It's, you're not thinking straight. So fast forward like 3 minutes, another Asian family walks in. And this Asian family walks in and they're like a family of maybe 4 or 5, I can't remember. And then they're going in, and I remember the security guard now yelling again at this Asian family. I think they were Chinese. At this family saying, "Hey, you can't go in. You can't go in. You can't go. You outside. Well, you don't understand English. You outside." And I'm just like, son, what the fuck is this dude's problem? People here in this specific room within this federal building are here on a almost, potential joyous day, right? If they pass the interview, which I'm assuming most do, they're gonna get their green card, and they will be legal residents of the United States. This is, a tense moment for people. It's nerve-wracking to some people. I mean, and you got this guy who's being a complete asshole to, in my perception now, to Asians, right? He's just being a complete dick, and how that whole situation panned out. There was this young kid within the Asian family, and he's sort of going back and forth verbally with the security guy, and I think even he himself came to the realization where, look, if I go down with this security guard, doesn't matter what happens, I'm gonna lose at the end of the day, right? Like if you fight with a security guard, you're gonna lose, right? I mean, this dude, and let me just kind of describe him, right? He's older. He's probably in his 50s or 60s. He's a tall, and I'm gonna assume he's of European descent. And the guy obviously hates his life and hates his job, right? Probably has mental issues as well. Maybe he's a fucking racist, maybe not. I don't know, right? The way that he was targeting me and the way he was targeting that Asian family, it seemed a little suspect, right? Like, why only us two you're berating versus all the other people here, right? That walked in. Now, anyway, why am I telling this story? Look, it's this sense of anger, right? That people have. It's the sense of where people can get to this boiling point of you can't hold it, so now you have to react. You have to burst out in some sort of violent physical way. Now, in my case, or maybe even the case of the other Asian dude who's part of that Chinese family that was being kicked out, maybe it was justified to some degree, right? If we were to, react out in a way and it got physical, it got violent, right? People, if the whole situation was videotaped, people can say, there is some justification behind what happened. And I think about this, and I think about that anger, I think about violence, right? And now I'm constantly seeing, we're all seeing it, right? You and I, we're all seeing it constantly on social media. you are seeing Asian Americans who are typically, elderly, can't really defend themselves, being singled out, attacked, sometimes killed, robbed, assaulted. And I'm looking at it video after video, and a lot of the pattern, right, seems to be similar, right? But there's one other thing that's really similar is most of these attacks, they were unprovoked. Let's talk about that for a second. Most of these attacks were unprovoked, right? Like, meaning there was, like, these are two strangers, right? You have a stranger, Asian American. You have a stranger, non-Asian American, right? And this person decides to attack. This attack violently, whether it's push, shove, snuff, punch, sucker punch, whatever it may be, to the victim. Now, and I'm thinking about that, right? I'm thinking, like, what made this person, what made this, criminal get to the point where he just breaks, right? Like, mentally, something is obviously broken. Something obviously ain't right up there. Because that's not a normal thing to do. You don't just attack people when there was absolutely no interaction ever before, and you attack them solely on the basis maybe of race, right? I can't, not all cases are hate crimes, but for the ones that we do see where Asians are being attacked, maybe they are attacking them because they're Asian. Maybe they are robbing them because they look weaker and they're not as defended. But that moment that it happens, right? That moment that it happens, I'm thinking, what is going on in that person's head? What is going on in that person's head that makes them think it's okay to do this? That makes them think, that this is a justifiable thing that person can do. Is it the media? Is it our media and the way that Asian Americans are being portrayed as weak? Don't fight back, keep your heads low and never make any trouble. Is it that sort of sentiment that gives these attackers some strange sense of courage to do acts of violence? Did something happen in your life where you were very upset and pissed off and you had to let off steam? So you let off steam on the most weakest targets that you could see. What is it? What is the sickness that we're seeing within people? Right? It is a real sickness. And I'm thinking about, at those exact moments, could something have happened where they didn't proceed with their attacks? Could something have happened where, maybe they decided, look, maybe this isn't the right thing to do? Guys, we live, the truth is we live in a broken society. We live in a broken world, right? People getting hurt isn't really new, whether you're Asian or black or white. And throughout this pandemic, and even before, there are parts of American lives, right, within pockets of an American society where people are really broken, people are really hurt, people are angry, and at the end of the day, human beings, we're flawed, right? So out of that hurt and brokenness and anger, they act out in massive violence. Right? I mean, we see this time and time again. And now what we're seeing on social media a lot more is now Asian Americans, receiving the brunt, right? Receiving the brunt of this physical outburst that we're seeing, whether it's from, individuals of within the black community, or whether it's, white people, Hispanic people, whatever it is, you're seeing it in that moment. When you see it, I'm always thinking, what is going on in that person's head, man? What is going on in that person's head? I think a lot about this sometimes, and I didn't talk about Asian American violence for the past 2 episodes because inside I'm a little sick of talking about it. Right? I mean, I'm a little sick of talking about it. Like I've said everything that I need to say. It's out there, and it's funny because now I see what people are saying now. And what I see people are saying now, now they're kind of getting it, right? People are saying, wait a second. We can't just blame everything on white supremacy, right? We can't just blame everything on anti-blackness, right? Like there are real issues and real conversations that need to be had that goes beyond the lazy excuses of anti-blackness and white supremacy. And I'm slowly seeing that, right? And I'm slowly seeing that. And I've been saying this, right? This is something that I've been speaking about even last year. So when I see this, and I see more Asian Americans are now just being a little bit more honest with themselves, right? A little bit more honest within their friend circles and their friend groups, and say, hey, look, this has been going on, right? This is not just part of the pandemic problem or a byproduct of the pandemic. This isn't just a byproduct of Trump saying it's the Chinese virus. This has been going on, and we need to address it in a very honest way, right? Right? And I'm seeing that more. So I'm happy for that. I'm happy that we're opening our eyes a little bit more, not everybody, but a little bit more, and saying, look, let's put white supremacy on the side for a little bit, and can we get to some real, like, let's be really honest. Can we get to some real honest conversations, right? And that conversation, it needs to happen, within the Asian American community first. We have to understand what's happening. And then we have to see other community leaders and our community leaders stepping out and having these conversations and bringing that message back to whatever community, right? I've been saying that. Yeah, I've been saying that because, when you look at the more bigger, I'm gonna go a little bit, I'll go a little bit bigger here, right? You cannot deny that human beings are innately, by nature, right? We are very tribal. Okay, we are very tribal. What does that mean, right? It's tribalism. It's always this mentality of us versus them. Okay, and when you have that, when you have these in-groups, right? This happens in every pockets of where there's human beings, right? You're always going to have people that are in one group, and then you're going to have people in another group. Sometimes that group is divided by race. Sometimes that group is divided by interests. It's divided, by class, whatever it may be. You're going to have that, right? That's how people naturally, gravitate towards. Now, a lot of times, right, this tribalism, it leads to violence, right? It leads to hate. And why am I saying this? Guys, us being a tribal people, that's not something. Okay, that is not something that the U.S. government can fix. Okay, less policing doesn't make us less tribal. All right, reformative justice or transformative justice doesn't make us less tribal. All right, in other words, there always will be a level of violence. There always will be a level of an us versus them mentality, and that's just part of human nature. Okay, that's how we survived all the way to how we are here today. Okay, that's why we have borders in countries. Okay, you have, this whole movement of we should have no borders, right? No borders. America with South American border, there should be no border. People should just go in and out, all willy nilly. Like that's not how society works. You guys remember when? Was it in Washington? I can't forget. I can't remember. I forget where it was. There was a time when there was this group of leftists that decided, maybe it was in Portland, was in Seattle. They decided to create a subsection within their city and call it the Chad, right? Or Chaz. You guys remember that? Guess what was the first thing that these people did the moment they decided that this part of the city, this part of their land is now going to be called Chad or Chaz? Guess what the first thing that they did was? They built fucking borders. Okay? They built barricades. They put up barricades and say, no, this is our land. This is us. This is our land. These are our people. You can't just come in. Right? There's got to be some sort of process if you in and out. Right, guys? And what I'm saying is, look, that's human beings. And for you to deny that that natural part of man is you just being completely dishonest, right? We got to talk honestly here, folks. Okay, tribalism is part of who we are. Okay, we want our group to win. We want our group to thrive. Now, I don't know, what you guys believe in. I don't know what religion you guys are. I don't know that. And I rarely talk about, religion and faith, but, at this moment, I think it's important to do so. The core tenet, one of the main things about being a Christian, right? One of the main things about being a follower of Christ is that there is this belief, right? That whether it's me or whether it's you, or whether it's some person in a third world country, or whether it's that, a suburban hillbilly, whatever it may be, we're all human beings, and we're all created in the image of God, right? In other words, we're all equal. The 1-year-old child that was just born versus the 99-year-old person who looks like they're going to pass away any moment soon. Both of their lives, right, are equal. Now, why am I saying this? Why am I saying this? Because, yes, human beings were tribal. Yes, that is part of human nature. And to the more educated and better versions of human beings, we want to kind of fight against tribalism, right? Because we want to respect people within our group, people outside our group. We want to respect every human being as an equal person, worthy. In terms of value, we're worth the same, right? If you want to put a value, there is no greater, there is no less than when it comes to one human being versus the other, right? Now that concept may seem somewhat universal, somewhat like, oh, we all agree that is the truth. But look at the way we treat each other. Look at the way we treat each other, right? That universal truth, if it is a universal truth, does not play out at all. And as a Christian, right, even myself, I have to constantly remind myself, yes, I'm Asian. Yes, I'm Korean. Yes, I'm an American. Yes, I'm a male, right? And I have all these identities. But the most important identity that I hold, the most important identity that I have is that I'm a child of Christ, right? I'm a follower of Jesus. That's the most important fucking thing, right? And when you believe that, then you also have to believe that all human beings, right, all of mankind are created in the image of God. So when you have that notion, that idea, that belief, then you have to slowly fight against this idea of your identity, right? Of what you hold so dear to you, what's important to you as an identity. That can't be the main thing of who you are, right? You have to start looking at other people and say, look, that person is created in the image of God, and that person has equal value, right? Their life is worth the same as mine. I'm not greater than that person. That person isn't greater than me. This concept is extremely hard to put into reality, right? Not many of us, first of all, understand that. And second of all, not many of us ever put that to practice, right? Just look at the way we treat each other. Look at what the names that we call each other, especially during this pandemic, right? Especially during this pandemic, as we're all keyboard warriors, right? By default. Look at the things and words that we hurl to each other. It's ridiculous. Okay, this us vs them mentality. If you want to break that down, right? I believe if you want to really break that down, if you really want to see a coming together between different communities, different ethnicities, right, within America. I'm not even talking about outside of America. I'm just talking, let's just say within America. Okay, let's start small, right? Within peoples of our communities. If you want to see a coming together, there needs to be a sense of my community and their community. We're no better. Okay? And that includes white people, folks. I know hating on the white man is the most popular thing to do in 2020 and 2021, but guys, even white people, their lives, right, are no greater or no less than black lives. Black lives are no greater or no less than Asian lives, okay? That's not taking away any of the things that each communities have gone through historically and presently. All right? We're not taking any of that away by you saying that all these lives are worth the same in terms of value when it comes to under God's eyes. Okay? Now, you gotta, to me, if you really want to see a sort of change, right? A sort of communities of coming together, that has to be established. That has to be fundamentally established before anything else. Or else tribalism will always just take hold, right? My community is better. My community needs more. And there's nothing wrong with advocating for your people. I always say that, right? There's nothing wrong for advocating for the Jewish people, the black people, or Asian people. There's nothing wrong with that. But as you do that, know that even if you're advocating for your people, know in terms of each life and their value, it's not greater or it's not less than the ones in your communities. Okay, so guys, that's something that I felt like maybe in the past 2 episodes I might have left out. Oh, I'm sorry, in the past, like, what was it, like, 2 episodes I might have not said. And I felt like look, many of you may not agree with me, right, on that, but I felt like it needed to be said. Okay, so it's been said, and it's out there. All right, it's out there. Look, guys, I want to talk about just real quick, right? When it comes to this idea of vigilante justice, right, or vigilante actions, right? It's this idea that, hey, look, Asian Americans, we're being attacked, so we need to arm ourselves, right? You see this a lot in the comments here and there, and we need to stay strapped, folks. Asians, you got to stay strapped. Elders, you got to stay strapped. Now, look, I'm a little hesitant, right, with that way of thinking. Okay, I'm not against individuals within America defending themselves, right? That's totally fine, right? If that's what you want to do, go ahead. I'm not against that. What I am kind of a little hesitant about is if we all decided collectively, Asian Americans, to, carry a gun, and if shit gets wrong, then we're gonna pull the trigger here and there. Imagine every time that there was an attack on Asians, the Asian person pulled the trigger. Imagine what that'll do. Is that the kind of society, or is that the kind of answer that we're looking for, right? We have to teach people a lesson. If you fuck with Asians, and you're just gonna get shot. Like, is that the kind of message that we're trying to give? I totally get why the calls for staying strapped, right, and holding weapons. Like, I get why, but at the same time, I don't know if that is the best solution, right? I'm not here offering another alternative. Well, then how do you keep your elders safe, right? Like, I'm not even so sure about, we see out in like San Francisco and different parts of the United States where you have community members patrolling the streets, right? Like, I'm not even sure if that is, like, what do you guys think? Like, to me, that's just you doing the work of a police officer, right? That's just you being a police officer that's not being paid. There's no difference. Okay, so these guys are patrolling the streets. Let's say you see, an Asian person getting harassed, and you got 4 or 5 guys jumping on that one person that is harassing and beats the living shit out of them. What do you think the news is gonna come out to be? Okay, what do you think? How do you think the world is gonna? How do you think the U.S. media, right, or our society, or the current state of our political climate? How is that gonna look? So again, I don't know if that is the best way, right? Again, I'm not here saying I have all the answers. I'm not here saying I have the best solution. But, to me, when you have community policing, right? When you have communities patrolling, and I see a lot of, people clapping about that and saying, yeah, that we need more of that. Um, I don't know. Is that the way to go, right? Is that the way forward? Because that hasn't, to me, I don't think that's really been tested. So, if it's happening and it's keeping people safe and the numbers are going down, then sure. Ultimately, it is a short-term fix. The people that are patrolling the streets, they're not getting paid to do it. They're not going to do it forever. You constantly will need more and more people to do it. It's a short-term fix for a much deeper-rooted problem. So vigilante justice and, communities patrolling the streets. What do you guys think? Because to me, that's not a long-term fix, and that's not something that I see ending well, right? It's not going to age well, in my opinion. Right? What am I asking for? Need more honest dialogue, right? Bring the communities together, respect each other as equal human beings. Let's not compare, who's been through the worst historic oppression in America, right? That conversation gets nowhere. I had a conversation a long time ago with a friend, and she was telling me how the black community has gone through so much worse than the Asian American community. And I said, look, first of all, that way of thinking, to me, it's incorrect, right? You can't be comparing what black people went through and then what the Asian Americans went through in America, right? It's two different. You're comparing apples and oranges. Our starting points are different. We went through different things. There are places where what we have in common, there's commonality, but our struggles are uniquely different. And for you to compare, and this is what I said to her, for you to compare and say one is greater or lesser, one struggle is greater or less than the other, is you're diminishing, right? Not purposely, but you are diminishing the struggle of what Asians have been through. And this conversation, it happened, I think, around last year during like the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I remember having that dialogue, and look, I thought it was a good conversation. Look, we need more conversations within Asians. Okay, guys, if your friend circles, I'm gonna assume that if you're an Asian American, your friend circles are probably Asian, right? You guys need to have honest dialogues with each other, right? What is the problem? How can we help? Right? What do we understand? What are we missing? And where is the end game in all this? Right? The end game isn't Asians are going to stop all of a sudden being harassed. The end game isn't, crimes against Asian Americans have now fallen to zero. No. That will never happen. Okay, that will never happen. But is it reducing? Because right now it looks like there is an upward trend, or it's just we're just seeing more actual reports coming through. I don't know the actual numbers here, but it just when it comes to news, it looks like it's an upward trend. How do we get to a downward trend? All right, guys. Look, enough about Asian Americans and us getting attacked. Look, I know last week and the weeks before, maybe was it last week? Was it 2 weeks? Last week and 2 weeks, I've been shitting on Cuomo a lot. And I want to talk about Andrew Cuomo. Because look, Andrew Cuomo, he's been getting a lot of heat, right? He's been getting a lot of shit. And to be fair, right? I've been on a tear about him. I get that. But to be fair, the guy has been a good governor throughout the COVID pandemic. And now before you guys go nuts at me, because it looks like both conservatives and liberals, it's very popular to shit on the guy right now. Like I'm gonna give you a quick defense of why I believe Andrew Cuomo is not as bad and a disgusting human being as the media and as social media is putting him out to be. Look, first of all, if you guys don't know, I am a Republican, right? I am a Republican. And there is a ton that I disagree with our beloved governor, all right? I disagree with his stance on abortion, on gun control, same-sex marriage, some just, broad things that I just completely disagree with him on, right? I disagree with him on the disgusting comments that he made about Republicans and conservatives back in 2014, right? He said something along the lines of, if you're a Republican or if you're a far-right conservative or a right-winger, then New York has no place for you, right? You don't belong in New York, get out. He said, I'm paraphrasing here, he said something along those lines. And I remember reading that. And I'm like, this motherfucker has lost all respect of any conservatives that live in New York, right? Because he was saying that out of a response of some event that was going on. And the way he said it, it made it just seem like even if you're not an ultra right wing person or an ultra hardcore conservative or Republican, if you're just a Republican or a conservative and you hold these values, then you have no place in New York, right? Like that's the message that a lot of conservatives and Republicans got from Andrew Cuomo. So this is the guy that I'm going to defend right now. Okay, this is the guy. Look, you guys know I can shit on Andrew Cuomo all day. Okay, all day. Now, for me, regardless of politics, right? Regardless of what he said and what he stands for, these are the facts. He is still the governor of New York. Okay? Hello, guys. Wake up call. He is still your governor. And whether I like it or not, right? I low-key still kind of root for the guy, right? I want him to do well. I want him to thrive. Just like how I want Mayor de Blasio to do well, right? You guys know I'm no fan of Mayor de Blasio. Most New Yorkers aren't, from what I can tell. But at the end of the day, I still want him to make the right decisions. I still want him to do well, because him doing well, in my head, ultimately translates to New York City doing well, right? So for Governor Cuomo to do well and to do the right things and say the right things and make the right decisions is ultimately beneficial for the state of New York. Just like I want our dead president, Sleepy Joe, to do well. Of course I'm rooting for Sleepy Joe. He's still, whether you like him or not, whether you think he's just a puppet to the Democratic Party, whether you think Kamala Harris is the true president, whatever you think of Sleepy Joe, of Joe Biden, he is still the motherfucking president of the United States. Make no mistake, right? And as an American, of course I support him. And as an American, of course I want him to do well. Of course I want him to succeed, right? Because he's the president of the country that I live in. All right? Now, let's talk about Cuomo, right? So besides, in terms of the pandemic, right? In terms of since last March, besides the nursing home debacle, right? He did okay. Guys, if you don't remember. Now look, I was watching the news with daily briefings of Trump and Cuomo every time they were on. It was almost a daily thing, right? It was a part of my life. I woke up in the morning. He would get on the news about 10, 11 o'clock. Right, I think it was around 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. And I would watch him speak for an hour. And it would bring some sort of peace, some sort of solace that, to me, it looked like Andrew Cuomo was really stepping up and being the leader that we needed. Because obviously, Trump wasn't, right? Trump was not being that leader. He was just dodging, saying stupid shit all the time. Couldn't stand the guy at the time. But Cuomo, he looked calm, he looked collected, he looked focused, no games. And he was on daily. Every day he was on. And he was trying to give the facts, and he was trying to give the reality of the situation, not sugarcoating what was happening. Okay, his leadership showed, even to the rest of the United States, that Andrew Cuomo is a real leader, right? He's a real leader in times of crisis. The guy is a wartime consigliere. All right, the guy is a wartime president, right? You can feel that he was poised. He was calm. He knew the situation, and he did what he thought was best for the lives of New Yorkers. You can't deny that. If you were watching that every day, you saw that, right? You saw what he was doing. And look, he gave reality checks daily. He didn't mince words. All right. Sometimes he kept New Yorkers a little, off edge with some banter and some teasing playfulness. I mean, that was fine, right? There was even a time when he put, politics aside and thanked Donald Trump for whatever support that New York got. So there were those times when he was sort of shining, right? Now, what I'm saying is, guys, I don't want you guys to just completely forget about those times. Okay? Yes, he made bad decisions with the nursing homes. Absolutely. Okay? Putting COVID patients back inside nursing homes was a disastrous call, a disastrous decision made by Cuomo, right? Which ended up killing potentially thousands and thousands of more elderly that didn't need to go that way, right? We had space. We had the ship. I forgot the ship's name. We had the Javits Center that was barely in use. We had different places where we could have put these COVID patients in, not just jammed them back in the nursing homes. It was a bad call, all right? It ended up in a lot of death. Now, what was even worse, he was playing politics, right? He covered up the numbers. He didn't tell the truth on how many people actually died during that time, and he held those numbers because he didn't want to give ammunition to Donald Trump, his political rival, to shit on him. Right? He was playing politics. Just like how every other politician plays politics, he was playing politics, right? It wasn't the best thing to do, obviously, during the pandemic. But let's be real here, guys. It's not just him. A lot of Democrat governors were doing the same thing. All right. Now, look, he looked like an absolute idiot, right? Going on CNN with his brother, Chris Cuomo, doing this, younger brother, older brother routine, this Cuomo brother routine. That was stupid. That was unnecessary. All right. And yeah, he absolutely took advantage of his rising stardom within the Democratic Party and wrote a book about how, his leadership and what he did and his administration, how they handled and done well with the whole COVID situation. And he made money off that, between the hundreds of thousands to millions. Yes, he did that. Yes, that seemed like a big mistake. And now his political career, right, is looking like it's coming to a bad end, right? You got allegations of sexual harassment. Okay, you got allegations of sexual harassment. It seems like every day there's a new person, raising their hand saying, "Oh, he said some weird things to me. Oh, he touched me in an inappropriate way." Now look, I feel for the guy, right? I feel for the guy because I went through something that was similar. It was different, but similar, right? And, when I look at these stories, when I look at these women coming forward, the first 2 or 3 women that came forward, I think it was the first 2, right? Lindsay and what was the other name? Charlotte. When they came forward, the story looked pretty credible, except the physical kissing part that we can't prove. But the rest of how he was being just creepy, how he just wanted to smash and he just wanted some young wop, like, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like that I can see Andrew Cuomo doing that. Shouldn't have done it. He did it. Now, you have these other people coming out, right? There's other people coming out. Was like someone that went to a wedding with him, someone that used to work for him back when he worked in the Clinton administration, and all these other stories saying, now that I think about it, yeah, Cuomo did say weird things to me. Yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, Cuomo did hug me for a little too long. Yeah, now that I think about it, he did make some weird remarks. And they're coming out and they're telling their stories. Guys, the more people that come out and tell these stories, right, it just looks worse and worse for the actual accusers, okay? Because the stories are so like, oh, you know what? Now that people are attacking Cuomo, let me get on this. Let me get on this hype and attack Cuomo as well. Yes, we were in a wedding, and he kissed my cheek or he kissed my hand, and I didn't want that, and it was inappropriate. Like, come on, son, seriously, seriously. Okay, we're gonna make a big deal out of him kissing hands, the governor of New York. All right. Look, now, as for women, if you felt violated, right, because the governor kissed your hand, he hugged you for too long, or he said inappropriate things, I get it. Say what you got to say. Do what you got to do, right? The governor went out there. He apologized. He obviously didn't intend for those specific interactions. He didn't intend for you to feel terrible, and he went out. He apologized. People are calling him to resign. Of course, he's not going to fucking resign. Why should he resign? Why is there a investigation in the first place? This is what I don't get. People are calling him for him to resign, and at the same time, they want a separate investigation. Which one do you want? You want the investigation, or do you want him to resign? You got to pick one. It makes no sense to have both going at the same time. What if he resigns? What was the point of the investigation? The investigation is going to take time. Okay, guys, we still live in a country of due process. Hopefully. All right? Give the man his time. Give the man his investigation. Let the facts play out, and let there be a verdict. Okay? Before then, don't call for resignations. Okay? Calling for resignations and then also calling for a separate investigation. Like, what's the point of that? It's like you're trying to impeach Donald Trump after he's out of office. Like, there really is no point of it. I get the idea that you don't want him to become president in 2024, but that's more of a personal vendetta. All right? That's more of a personal, I don't like the guy, so I don't want him to become president again in 2024. In terms of actual terms of impeaching, the purpose of impeaching, okay, it's the guy's got to be actually in the office. It's the same story here. You want him to resign, and then there's also an investigation. Which one do you want, guys? All right, so look, Cuomo, look, as much as dirty as the man can seem, and as disgusting as some of these stories sound, I want to be very cautious of calling out Cuomo and just constantly berating him and saying nasty things about him. Because, look, he had good moments, and you can't deny that. Okay? He had moments where he showed real leadership, which I will 100%, as a Republican and him being a Democrat, right, that I would support. Right? I was very in favor of how Cuomo held his press briefings. I may not have agreed with his lockdown policies. I may not have agreed with the way he handled certain situations, right? Whether it's the nursing homes or the restaurant industry or whatever policies, emergency powers that he used, I may not agree with it. But overall, right, as just him as a character, he was doing what he thought was the best for New Yorkers. And if you can't see that, and all you're seeing is just the negatives of Andrew Cuomo, and all you're seeing is as the guy is just a disgusting predator, and he's a murderer because of the nursing home in the back, and you're not giving him any sort of, benefit of the doubt, I want you to look at yourselves. I want you to think, then what's the point of due process? Am I part of the problem when we complain about cancel culture? Right? We all hate cancel culture, right? Am I part of the problem if I'm reacting this way? So I'm asking you guys to take a step back, right? With Andrew Cuomo, look at the things that he did well. Give the man some breathing room. Let the investigation play out. And then after that, we'll see what happens. Yeah, I think that's fair to ask. Now, look, there is a funny thing that happened within Texas, right? You have the governor of Texas that decided to, it just seemed out of nowhere, right? He said, all right, guys, the mask mandate is lifted. Businesses open at 100%. Go do whatever the fuck you want to do. And the people, they went insane. right? It's like they lost their minds, right? You have Beto O'Rourke, who, and other political opponents who said, the governor of Texas is killing the people of Texas. The governor is killing the people of Texas. You're opening up the state and your reaction is the governor is killing the people of Texas? And that gets front page news headlines on all mainstream media. Like, we complain about mainstream media. We talk about mainstream media bias. Look at that article. Look at those headlines. The governor decides to open up Texas. Oh, the governor is killing the people of Texas. Really? Really? What do you guys want? What do you guys want? Look, do you think that the governor went out there and his thought process, right? And I want you to be honest, right? Because those headlines, it's showing absolutely no faith, it's no good faith. It's absolutely throwing this idea of being an honest journalism, right? The idea of you understanding the big picture, of you trying to think what the other person was trying to do, and you're just going to go out there and say the governor's trying to kill every motherfucker out there. Right? Texas governor's out there killing people because he opened up the country. Well, why do you think he did it? Do you really think he sat in his office? Do you really think that the governor of Texas sat in his office and said, what would be a really great idea? I hate the people of Texas so much. I want to kill all of them. And I want to kill as many of them as I can. So guess what? I'm gonna lift the mask mandate, and I'm gonna tell businesses that they can open up because that's going to directly kill people. And that's what I'm gonna do. Do you really think that was his intent? Okay, you're being extremely dishonest. The media is being absolutely dishonest. His political opponents are being terribly dishonest. And anyone who engages in that kind of thinking, in that kind of rhetoric, you're being very dishonest. Okay? Like, I'm not saying because of his actions, there may be, an increase in hospitalization rates, which obviously equals an increase in deaths. That may happen. That absolutely may happen. But to say that his intent, okay, key word here, intent, to say that his intent was to kill the people of Texas, the governor is killing the people of Texas, like that's the headline, that's what you get, that's the message you get out when the governor of Texas opens up his state. Guys, got to be a little honest here. Where is the honesty? All right. Now look, when it comes to wearing masks, when it comes to social distancing, I can tell you here in New York, right? Many of us, we're tired of wearing fucking masks. We're tired of social distancing, and I can guarantee you. Okay, I can guarantee you that when people gather indoors, they don't have their fucking masks on. Okay, surprise, surprise. People are tired of these restrictions. They're tired of masks. That's not new. It's been happening. Let's be honest, folks. That's been going on. Many of us, we gather indoors. We don't put our masks on. I'm not saying everybody, but I'm sure a large percent of us, we don't do that. And now we have to think, right? Why am I saying this? We have to think, when the governor of Texas decided to open up his state fully and lift the mask mandate, where is the science, or what data or graphs is he looking at to make this decision? Is he betting on, more vaccines coming through, weather getting warmer, people already built up, the people of Texas have already built up a certain level of antibodies, and now he decides, it's okay now, it's safe? Or is it because, maybe he saw the graph, right, between California and Florida, two completely different responses of how they handled corona, but the results are virtually the same, right? When you scale population, the results of draconian lockdowns versus open the businesses, no mask mandate, the results are the same. The results aren't great, let me tell you. It's not like they really squashed COVID. Both states neither did, right? But the way that they reacted was completely different, but the results were the same. Now, did the Texas governor see that and say, well, maybe all this, masks and social distancing and curfews and closing businesses down. Maybe it was a mistake. Let's just open shit up. It's bad anyway, so you know what? It's not gonna change anything if I open up. Maybe did he come to that conclusion? I don't know. But what I'm saying is at least ask about those kind of things. At least think about that before you go out and say, the governor of Texas is killing the people of Texas. Come on, son. Can we be honest? Like, what are you saying? Like, if you just stop and think about what you're saying, you're gonna realize, okay, maybe I'm being a little too rash here. A New York Times article just came out. Maybe some of you saw it. There was a graph of how many deaths by country per 100,000 population, right? Of deaths of 100,000 COVID infectants, and what how many died, like what's the percent, and how many died, and the graph went by country. And if you saw that graph, what was interesting to see was a lot of these poorer countries within Asia and Africa did much better than countries like the US, the UK, Germany, Italy, and other European and Western countries. And you got to think, well, how is that possible? Because historically speaking, right, when you have some sort of health crisis, pandemics, usually it's the poorer countries that get affected the most. So this New York Times article, it attributes to, the U.S. has a higher age population, right? Where our average age is a lot older than these other countries. There may be a lack of reporting of deaths in these other poor countries. These other countries were very strict in terms of international flights, especially with China and Europe. They basically blocked flights coming in immediately. Maybe that has to do something with it. And the answer is, I think it's yes to all those, right? It's yes to all those. But there's one thing that the New York Times didn't mention. It's obesity. Okay, it's obesity. Guys, did you know that in America, 40% of adults are obese? 40%. That's right. 40% of American adults suffer from obesity. Now, we don't like to talk about obesity, right, in 2021, right? We don't want fat shame. We don't want, body positivity. We don't want to talk about obesity. But the truth is, with obesity, right, it's a medical issue. You have other things that come with obesity, right? Diabetes, heart problems, artery issues, and a host of other things that can go wrong when you're obese. So when you have 40% of Americans that are obese, and you're inviting all these coronavirus comorbidities into your lives, and you die from corona because of these comorbidities that you had from obesity, then maybe we should talk about obesity. Maybe we should talk about, man, Americans, we need to get healthier. We need to exercise more. We need to take our vitamins. We need to eat healthier. We need to be more active. Maybe that needs to be talked about more. Because in terms of when you see, what are the best ways to prevent COVID and getting really sick from COVID, nobody's talking about personal health. Like, it's a taboo thing to say, hey, make sure you're healthy. Hey, make sure you're active. Hey, make sure you're eating well. Like, it's a very taboo thing to say that publicly. And my point is, it shouldn't. When you're talking about, the US, right? The richest country in the world that has extraordinarily high death rates compared to other countries, you got to see that and you got to say, well, where did it all go wrong? And don't blame the healthcare system. Okay? There are countries with virtually no healthcare system, and they're performing much better in terms of COVID deaths than the US. So it ain't the healthcare system. All right? It's not the healthcare system, guys. I'll show you the graph later. Look, we need to open up. Right? We need to open up. I'm thinking the pandemic has done what it's done, right? It's killed businesses. It's ravaged communities. It's made us more anxious. It's made us more, socially awkward. I mean, we're selling GIFs of Mark Cuban dancing. Okay, we're headed to a very weird dystopian reality. Now, look, eventually we will open up, right? New York City and New York will open up, but it's a gradual buildup, right? It's a slow recovery, right? You have over 100,000 New Yorkers that left New York. Okay, that's tax money leaving New York. Okay, you have an increasing crime problem within New York that people don't want to talk about or don't want to take care of. Okay, that's got to be handled within New York. All right, you have businesses. A third of restaurants in New York City shut down. That's a problem within New York. It's not like when you open things up, restaurant owners and business owners will be, hey, look, I'm just gonna open my business back up now. No, they don't have the money to do so. You got a lot of complicated problems even after you open up. Guys, at the end of the day, we need to open up because there is this level of human interaction that I think a lot of people are not getting. Right? I said this before. We're a very communal society. Our people are made to be within communities, right? To be with other people, to interact with other people. That's how we're built. We're societal beings. Now, when you have things like, Zoom meetings, okay, when you have things like digital church services, which I absolutely fucking hate. Okay, God, don't even get me started about digital church services. It's been awful. Guys, we need to be with people, right? There's got to be a certain level of understanding where, all right, this thing with the coronavirus, it's a risk that we take. Just like when you go outside, okay, you risk all sorts of other things. At the moment you step out of your house, right? Now you just got to add coronavirus to one of those things. Okay, we will wear masks, right? We will get vaccinated, but it ain't 100% proof. The moment you step in a car, right, you're taking a risk. The moment you leave your house, you're taking a risk. Coronavirus, we have to come as a society to a point where we say it's just one of those risks. Okay, and don't give me that one life is too many nonsense. Come on, no policy was ever made because of the potential of maybe one life dying. Okay, I'm not saying morally that's right or wrong. I'm just saying in terms of policy, how we shape rules and regulations within the United States, that's never been a thing. Okay, that's never been a thing. Now look, that's all I got for you today, guys. I wanna leave you with this, man. There's a lot of news that happened, and one of the things that I hear, okay, is Meghan Markle. I'm sorry, is it Meghan Markle? What's her last name? Markle? Am I saying that right? I'm not even sure. Meghan, the UK Duchess getting bullied. Guys, this is news that we don't give a fuck about, all right? This is news that we shouldn't give a fuck about. But for some reason, all right, the story, the drama behind Meghan and her baby potentially having darker skin and is causing all these issues within the palace in the UK is covering morning and evening primetime news? Am I the only one that does not give a fuck about this UK royalty bullshit? Guys, first of all, we live in America. Okay, this is UK news. We live in America. All right? Second of all, I get it. It's like a fantasy, right? Like Meghan being in the royal family, she's a real princess, right? I get it. There is a certain type of fantasy that still people are drawn towards. No problem, right? Put that shit in the tabloids. Put that shit in page 6. Okay, put that shit in like the last page of the New York Post. Don't put it on primetime morning and evening news. I don't want to watch NBC and the first headline that comes up is the interview with Oprah Winfrey and Meghan. That shouldn't be a thing right now. There's other things to cover in the United States that's going on, and this should not take precedent over these other things. So, guys, I don't know what the hell is up with that fascination with the royal family in UK. Complete nonsense. News that we just do not give a fuck about. Guys, thank you so much for listening. This is the Millennial Boomer Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, follow to the podcast, and follow the Instagram page at Millennial Boomer _. Also, subscribe, like, and comment on YouTube. Catch you next time.